Elysia was 58 when the news came like a sudden storm on a quiet afternoon. A lifelong lover of family dinners and fragrant bowls of rice, she never imagined the very staple that had comforted her through decades might become a silent enemy. The diagnosis of type 2 diabetes hit her with a weight heavier than any physical pain, a mixture of fear, confusion, and a deep, aching uncertainty about the future. She remembered sitting in the doctor's office, heart pounding as the words echoed, "Your blood sugar levels are dangerously high. We need to make changes, significant changes." The room felt colder suddenly, even though outside the sun shone warmly through the window. That evening, Elysia sat alone in her kitchen, the familiar clatter of dishes replaced by a quiet that felt almost unbearable. She traced her fingers over the smooth surface of a bowl she had prepared countless times, a bowl of white rice steaming softly, and wondered if she had been feeding her body with love or unknowingly sowing the seeds of illness. Tears welled up, but beneath them grew a spark of resolve. This was her turning point, the moment when she decided that her story wouldn't end in despair. She would seek answers, not just in medicine, but in understanding the very food that had been part of her life's fabric. The days that followed were filled with research, conversations with nutritionists, and the slow, sometimes frustrating process of change. Elysia discovered that not all rice was created equal, that the choice between one grain and another could mean the difference between stable blood sugar and dangerous spikes. It was a revelation wrapped in hope and caution. She learned about wild rice, black rice, and brown basmati, names that soon became part of her daily vocabulary and her new allies in this journey. Each grain told a story of nourishment and healing far beyond the simple carbohydrates she once thought rice was. As Elysia experimented with recipes and flavors, her body began to respond in ways she hadn't dared to expect. The tiredness that once clung to her like a shadow began to lift. Her energy became steadier, her moods calmer. Meals transformed from a source of anxiety into moments of empowerment. She found joy in the subtle, nutty taste of black rice and the chewy satisfaction of wild rice, pairing them with vibrant vegetables and lean proteins. These simple acts of care reshaped not only her diet, but her relationship with food itself. It became an intimate conversation between her body and the world around her. Through her journey, Elysia also faced moments of doubt and temptation. The familiar comfort of white rice called to her like an old friend, its softness and ease hard to replace. Yet she remembered the sharpness of that doctor's warning and the quiet strength she had found in choosing differently. With each passing day, she grew more mindful, not just of what she ate, but how she lived. Hydrating well, moving gently, and listening closely to her body's needs became part of a larger awakening. This was no longer just about diabetes, it was about reclaiming her life, one mindful choice at a time. Now, when Elysia sits down to a meal, she does so with gratitude and understanding. Her story is a testament to the power of small changes and the profound impact of knowing what truly nourishes us. This video is her story, a journey through fear, discovery, and renewal. It is also a gentle guide for anyone standing at a similar crossroads, wondering which step to take next. Through Elysia's eyes, we will explore the remarkable benefits of the 3 best types of rice for managing diabetes, and why some common choices might be holding you back more than you realize. As we walk with her through the kitchen aromas and the quiet moments of reflection, remember that this is not just a story about rice or blood sugar. It is a story about resilience, hope, and the everyday courage to change. Elysia's journey is a reminder that with the right knowledge and care, it is possible to find balance and strength again, even when the path seems uncertain. So let's begin this journey together, learning not just about food, but about the power to transform from within. Elysia had never thought much about rice beyond its comforting presence on her family table. Growing up, it was always there, fluffy, warm, familiar, a quiet companion to every meal and every memory. It was hard to imagine that such a humble grain could play a silent role in her health unraveling. When the doctor first explained how her blood sugar levels were dangerously high, she felt overwhelmed, confused, and in a way, betrayed by her lifelong staples. How could something so ordinary be so harmful, she wondered. That question lingered in her mind during quiet mornings and restless nights. She recalled the comforting bowls of white rice she had eaten without thought for years, the way her mother always said, "Rice is life." But life, it seemed, had a more complicated relationship with rice than she had known. Slowly, Elysia began to understand that rice was not just rice. Different types had very different effects on blood sugar, and some could spike it rapidly, sending her body into chaos. It was a revelation that shifted her perspective entirely. One afternoon, Elysia sat across from Dr. Nguyen, her primary care physician, who spoke gently but firmly. "Elysia, the kind of rice you eat matters more than many realize," he said. "White rice, while beloved, can cause your blood sugar to rise quickly after meals. This roller coaster effect can make managing diabetes much harder." He explained the concept of the glycemic index, a way to measure how fast foods raise blood sugar. "White rice usually scores very high," he said, "but there are other varieties with a lower glycemic index that release sugar more slowly and steadily." Elysia nodded slowly, absorbing each word like a lifeline. The doctor wasn't just prescribing medicine, he was offering knowledge, a roadmap to reclaiming control. He encouraged her to explore grains like wild rice, black rice, and brown basmati, options that were rich in fiber and protein, which helped slow digestion and kept blood sugar stable. It wasn't about deprivation, but about making smarter choices that supported her body rather than working against it. Back home, Elysia's kitchen felt different now. She found herself scrutinizing labels and reading about rice varieties she'd never encountered before. Each grain seemed to hold new possibilities. She imagined how changing just one part of her diet could ripple through her health, reducing fatigue, stabilizing moods, even protecting her heart. The idea that rice could be a tool for healing rather than a threat sparked a cautious hope within her. But change was never easy. Elysia still craved the softness and familiarity of her old meals. The scent of freshly cooked white rice brought bittersweet memories. Family gatherings, laughter, moments of joy. Yet, the fear of what could happen if she didn't change kept her grounded. She realized that food was more than just fuel. It was intertwined with emotions, culture, and identity. Finding balance meant honoring all these parts of herself while making choices that nourished her future. As days passed, Elysia began to experiment with wild rice, intrigued by its nutty aroma and chewy texture. It wasn't the same, but it had its own charm. Cooking became an act of mindfulness, a way to reclaim agency over her health. She imagined her body responding to each bite with steadiness, her blood sugar no longer on a wild ride, but a calm river flowing smoothly. This new relationship with rice felt like a promise, one she was willing to keep. Her family noticed the changes too. Her daughter, Lynn, asked with a smile, "Mom, what's this new rice you're cooking? It smells different." Elysia explained her journey quietly, sharing what she'd learned about blood sugar and healthier grains. Lynn's eyes widened with curiosity, and soon the kitchen was filled with new recipes and shared discoveries. The transformation wasn't just physical, it was weaving new threads into their family's story. Elysia's journey had just begun, but already she could feel a shift, a gentle awakening to the power of choice and the subtle ways food shapes our health. This first step, understanding how rice affected her blood sugar, was more than information. It was a turning point. It was the moment she stopped being a passive participant in her illness and started becoming an active steward of her well-being. As night fell and Elysia prepared her simple meal, she felt a quiet gratitude for the doctors who guided her, for the grains that now held promise, and for the strength she found within herself to walk this new path. The road ahead was uncertain, but with each mindful bite, she was building a foundation, a future where she could thrive, not just survive. Elysia's first real encounter with wild rice came almost by accident. One afternoon, while browsing a local market, she noticed a curious bag labeled wild rice, sitting quietly among the familiar packages. It wasn't like the white or brown rice she had always bought. The grains were longer, darker, and had a rich, earthy scent. Something about it whispered promise, so she decided to give it a try. Little did she know, this small decision would mark a pivotal moment in her journey toward better health. Back in her kitchen, Elysia carefully followed the instructions to cook the wild rice. The process was different, requiring a bit more time and patience. But as the grains softened and expanded, a warm, nutty aroma filled the air, inviting memories of simpler times spent with her grandmother in the countryside. Sitting down to taste that first bite, she felt a mixture of curiosity and hope. It wasn't the softness of white rice, but there was a satisfying chewiness that spoke of nourishment. As days turned into weeks, Elysia noticed subtle changes within herself. Her usual post-meal fatigue became less frequent, and the overwhelming hunger pangs that had driven her toward unhealthy snacks seemed to ease. She learned that wild rice was packed with fiber, a key ally in slowing digestion and keeping blood sugar levels steady. This fiber, she discovered, also helped her feel full longer, easing the battle against constant cravings. It was as if the wild rice was quietly stabilizing the waves in her body. One evening, Dr. Nguyen sat down with her to review her progress. "Elysia, your blood sugar readings are improving," he said with a warm smile. "Wild rice is doing its part. It has a lower glycemic index than white rice, which means it releases sugar into your bloodstream more slowly." He explained how this slow release helped prevent sudden spikes and crashes that could be dangerous. It's also rich in magnesium, a mineral that supports your body's insulin function. Hearing this gave Elysia a deep sense of reassurance. She realized that the grains she chose weren't just food, they were medicine, healing her from within. She began to see her meals as an opportunity to nurture herself rather than punish. The simple act of replacing white rice with wild rice became a powerful ritual of self-care, a symbol of her growing resilience. Yet the journey wasn't without its challenges. At family gatherings, familiar plates of sticky rice and white rice still appeared, tempting and familiar. Sometimes Elysia felt a pang of loneliness, as if her choices set her apart. But she remembered why she had started, the fear that once gripped her, and the small victories she was now collecting. With quiet determination, she found ways to bring wild rice to the table, in salads, soups, and side dishes, sharing its subtle flavors and benefits with those she loved. Elysia's experience with wild rice opened her eyes to a broader world of food and health. She realized that healing wasn't about drastic changes or deprivation, but about mindful choices that respected her body's needs. Each meal became a moment of reflection and gratitude, a chance to honor her journey. The grains that once seemed so ordinary were now vibrant symbols of hope and renewal. As the weeks passed, Elysia's energy improved. She felt lighter, more balanced, and more in tune with her body. The wild rice, with its unique texture and nourishing properties, became a trusted companion in her kitchen and her life. It was a reminder that sometimes the most profound transformations come from embracing the natural gifts hidden in simple things. Through this experience, Elysia also grew closer to her family. Her daughter Lynn, inspired by her mother's dedication, began exploring healthier cooking with her. They shared recipes, laughter, and stories around the table, turning meals into celebrations of health and love. The wild rice was no longer just a grain, it was a bridge between generations, a testament to care and connection. This chapter in Elysia's story was more than about managing diabetes. It was about reclaiming joy and agency. She had moved from fear to empowerment, from confusion to clarity. The wild rice taught her that healing was a journey, one that could be gentle, nourishing, and deeply rewarding. And with each bite, she was writing a new story, one of strength, hope, and the quiet power of choice. Elysia's growing appreciation for wild rice soon revealed layers of benefits she hadn't expected. One afternoon, as she sat with a cup of tea and a well-worn notebook, she reflected on how this single change was quietly reshaping her health. The more she learned, the more she realized that wild rice wasn't just another grain. It was a true powerhouse packed with nutrients that supported her body in ways beyond simply stabilizing blood sugar. She remembered Dr. Nguyen explaining one detail that stuck with her. Wild rice had more protein than most other rice varieties, about 6.5 grams per cooked cup. Protein is vital, he'd said gently, because it slows down carbohydrate absorption. That means your blood sugar doesn't spike as quickly. Elysia found comfort in this. Protein had always seemed the foundation of strength, and now she understood how it worked quietly inside her body, helping her muscles stay strong and energy levels remain steady. Another surprise came with magnesium, a mineral she hadn't heard much about before. Dr. Nguyen had mentioned that magnesium helped insulin work better, improving how her body processed sugar. Elysia was curious and a little hopeful. She imagined the magnesium like a helpful assistant inside her cells, making sure the insulin signals weren't ignored or lost. With wild rice providing a decent amount of this mineral, she felt reassured that each meal was helping her body work smarter, not harder. What delighted Elysia most was learning about antioxidants in wild rice. She pictured these antioxidants as tiny warriors, battling inflammation and oxidative stress that often accompanied diabetes. She had read somewhere that these hidden battles within the body could cause fatigue, joint pain, and other unwelcome symptoms. Knowing that wild rice brought a natural defense made her appreciate the grain not just as food, but as a partner in her healing journey. The resistant starch in wild rice was another fascinating discovery. This special type of carbohydrate acted like fiber, feeding the beneficial bacteria in her gut. Elysia had heard about gut health, but hadn't realized how deeply it influenced everything, from digestion to immunity to blood sugar regulation. She imagined her gut as a garden where wild rice helped nourish the good plants that kept everything balanced. This gentle, unseen benefit gave her a new sense of connection to the food she ate. Cooking wild rice became a small ceremony for Elysia. She learned that letting it cool in the fridge overnight increased the resistant starch content, making it even better for her blood sugar. This simple trick felt like a secret gift she was giving to herself, a quiet way to make every meal count more. She began sharing these little insights with Lynn, who was eager to support her mother's efforts and try out new recipes together. Elysia's body seemed to respond positively to these changes. She noticed her energy was less erratic throughout the day, and the heavy, foggy feeling that had clouded her mornings was lifting. She started to feel more like herself again, a vibrant woman ready to embrace life's moments without the constant shadow of fatigue or anxiety. This newfound vitality was a testament to the power of nature's simple gifts when paired with mindful choices. Despite the slow, steady progress, Elysia knew this was a lifelong path, not a quick fix. Some days, cravings for familiar, comforting foods still tugged at her resolve. But she had grown stronger in her knowledge and commitment. Wild rice was no longer just an unfamiliar grain, it was a symbol of her dedication to health and self-respect. Each meal was a step toward balance, a promise she kept to herself. The quiet victories inspired Elysia to keep exploring other grains and foods that could support her diabetes management. But wild rice held a special place, a starting point that changed everything. It reminded her that healing wasn't about sacrifice, but about discovering what truly nourished her body and soul. As she shared her experiences with friends and family, Elysia became a beacon of hope for others facing similar challenges. Her story was a gentle reminder that sometimes the smallest changes, like choosing a different grain, could ripple into profound transformation. And in this simple shift, she found not only better health, but renewed joy and purpose. Elysia had always heard about fiber in passing, often associating it with digestion or something to do with weight control. But as her journey deepened, she began to appreciate just how crucial fiber was. Not just any fiber, but the kind found abundantly in wild rice. It was like a gentle guardian inside her body, quietly working to keep things running smoothly in ways she hadn't imagined before. One afternoon, while stirring a pot of simmering wild rice, she thought about how fiber slowed digestion. Dr. Nguyen had explained that when food digests slowly, sugar enters the bloodstream gradually, preventing those sharp spikes that frightened her so much. Elysia realized that fiber was helping her body avoid the dangerous roller coaster rides her blood sugar used to take. It was like smoothing out the bumps on a rough road, making her daily life steadier and more predictable. Beyond blood sugar control, fiber was also helping Elysia feel full for longer. She recalled how, before, after meals, she'd often feel hungry again too quickly, leading her to snack on less healthy foods out of desperation. But with fiber-rich wild rice, the satisfaction from meals lingered. This newfound fullness wasn't just physical, it was comforting. A reminder that nourishing herself properly could quiet the cravings that had once seemed overwhelming. As Elysia explored more about fiber's benefits, she learned it played a vital role in gut health. She pictured her digestive system as a delicate ecosystem, where fiber served as food for the good bacteria that kept everything balanced. This blossoming garden of microbes didn't just affect digestion, it impacted her immune system, inflammation levels, and even her mood. The more fiber she ate, the more she felt connected to this intricate internal world, fostering a sense of harmony inside. One evening, Elysia sat with her daughter Lynn and shared these insights. Lynn listened intently, her eyes wide with curiosity. They discussed how fiber wasn't just a number on a nutrition label, but a powerful force that could influence health in subtle yet profound ways. Lynn was inspired to help her mother prepare meals that celebrated fiber-rich ingredients, turning cooking into a shared adventure rather than a chore. Yet, Elysia also learned to be patient with her body. Increasing fiber intake gradually was important to avoid discomfort like bloating or gas. She drank more water to support the fiber's work, remembering Dr. Nguyen's advice that hydration was essential. These small adjustments required mindfulness, but Elysia welcomed them as part of her commitment to healing. With each meal that featured wild rice or other fiber-rich foods, Elysia felt more empowered. She was no longer a passive observer of her diabetes, but an active participant in managing it. The invisible work fiber did inside her body was a testament to the strength found in gentle, consistent care. This was not a battle fought with harsh restrictions, but a journey toward understanding and balance. As days turned to weeks, Elysia noticed changes beyond just numbers on a glucose monitor. Her energy felt steadier, her digestion more comfortable, and her mood calmer. The simple presence of fiber in her meals became a foundation for this growing wellness. She began to see food not as an enemy, but as a source of life and resilience. This realization gave her hope for the future. She understood that while diabetes might be a part of her story, it didn't have to define her. Through embracing fiber-rich foods like wild rice, she was reclaiming control and nurturing a body that was capable of healing. Her kitchen, once a place of routine, had become a sanctuary of transformation. In this new chapter, Elysia's relationship with food was changing, from one of fear and limitation to curiosity and care. Fiber was more than a nutrient. It was a symbol of the slow but powerful changes that were reshaping her life. With every bite, she was planting seeds of health, resilience, and hope that would sustain her for years to come. Elysia's discovery of wild rice's benefits was like peeling back layers of a story she hadn't fully understood before. Among the many nutrients it contained, two stood out to her as particularly powerful allies: protein and magnesium. She hadn't realized how crucial these were for managing her diabetes until she began to connect the dots through her own experience and the gentle guidance of her doctor. One morning, while preparing breakfast, Elysia reflected on how protein had quietly supported her energy and strength. Dr. Nguyen had explained that protein wasn't just about building muscles, it also helped slow the absorption of carbohydrates, smoothing out the rise of blood sugar after meals. For Elysia, this meant fewer sudden spikes and crashes that once left her feeling exhausted and irritable. Protein had become a steadying force in her day, anchoring her body through the fluctuations of diabetes. Magnesium was a newer concept to her, something she'd barely heard of before this journey. But Dr. Nguyen emphasized its importance in helping insulin do its job effectively. Elysia imagined magnesium as a key that unlocked her cell's ability to take in sugar, keeping blood sugar levels more balanced. She learned that many people with diabetes, including herself, often had lower magnesium levels, which made managing the condition more difficult. Knowing that wild rice was a natural source of magnesium gave her hope and a sense of control. Elysia began to pay closer attention to how she combined foods. She made a habit of pairing wild rice with lean proteins like grilled chicken or beans, crafting meals that supported her blood sugar in multiple ways. These balanced plates not only satisfied her hunger, but nourished her body deeply. She felt stronger, more energized, and less at the mercy of sudden cravings. Her family noticed the change too. Lynn often commented on how vibrant her mother looked, how she seemed more lively and present. Preparing meals together became a cherished ritual, a way for them to connect beyond words. They experimented with flavors and textures, discovering new ways to enjoy wholesome food that supported Elysia's health without sacrificing taste. Magnesium-rich foods like nuts, leafy greens, and whole grains found their way into Elysia's shopping list alongside wild rice. She learned simple recipes to incorporate these ingredients daily, turning nutrition into an act of love and care for herself. Each meal was a small victory, a step toward the stable blood sugar she longed for. Yet, Elysia also understood the need for patience and kindness. Some days were harder, with moments of doubt and temptation. But remembering the science behind protein and magnesium helped her stay focused. She knew these nutrients were not quick fixes, but steady companions in her journey, building resilience over time. One evening, after a particularly fulfilling meal, Elysia sat quietly reflecting on how far she had come. The path wasn't easy, but it was hers, shaped by choices, knowledge, and a growing trust in her body's ability to heal. Protein and magnesium were more than nutrients now. They were symbols of hope, strength, and the gentle power of nature's gifts. This deeper understanding gave Elysia a renewed sense of purpose. She was no longer overwhelmed by her diagnosis, but empowered by the knowledge that simple, mindful choices could transform her health. With each balanced meal, she was weaving a new story, one of stability, vitality, and quiet triumph over diabetes. Elysia had come a long way in her journey toward understanding how the food she ate affected her diabetes. But one thing she hadn't quite mastered yet was how to prepare wild rice to get the most benefit from it. It wasn't as simple as boiling white rice in a pot. Wild rice required a different touch, a little more time and patience. Still, Elysia felt ready to learn, knowing that this step was crucial for nurturing her health. One Saturday morning, armed with a fresh bag of wild rice and a determination to get it right, Elysia set up her kitchen like a small laboratory. She carefully measured the grains, rinsed them gently, and filled her largest pot with water. As the water began to simmer, she remembered something Dr. Nguyen had mentioned during her last appointment. Cooking wild rice properly can increase its resistant starch, which helps regulate blood sugar, he had said. Try cooking it, then letting it cool in the fridge before reheating. That small change can make a big difference. The idea of resistant starch was new to Elysia, but it fascinated her. She pictured starch molecules shifting and transforming inside the pot, becoming friendlier to her body and gut. This simple trick, a kind of food science magic, was something she could do on her own, a hands-on way to support her health beyond just choosing the right ingredients. As the wild rice cooked, its rich, nutty aroma filled the kitchen. Elysia's thoughts drifted to memories of her grandmother who had taught her to appreciate the earthiness of grains and the value of slow, careful cooking. There was something comforting about this process, a ritual that grounded her amid the uncertainty of her diagnosis. The patience required to cook wild rice well was also a lesson in gentleness, a reminder to treat her body with the same care. When the rice was done, Elysia drained it and spread it out on a wide dish to cool. She placed it in the fridge overnight, eager to see how this step would affect her next meal. The following day, she reheated the wild rice carefully, mixing it with a handful of fresh spinach and roasted vegetables. The flavors came alive, earthy, chewy, and satisfying in a way she hadn't expected. More than taste, though, was the feeling of nourishing her body thoughtfully. Over the next few weeks, Elysia experimented with different cooking methods and combinations. Sometimes she added a squeeze of lemon juice or a sprinkle of fresh herbs. Other times, she tossed the cooled wild rice into a hearty soup or mixed it with beans for a protein-packed salad. Each variation kept her meals interesting and prevented the monotony that often made healthy eating feel like a chore. Elysia's family began to notice the change too. Lynn was intrigued by the new flavors and often asked to join in the cooking. Together, they explored recipes from cookbooks and online blogs, always mindful of Elysia's dietary needs. These moments in the kitchen became more than just about food. They were about connection, learning, and shared hope. One evening, as they sat down to a meal of wild rice pilaf with grilled chicken and steamed broccoli, Lynn smiled and said, "Mom, this is delicious. I'm glad you found something that works for you." Elysia's heart swelled with gratitude. The journey had been challenging, but moments like these made every effort worthwhile. Elysia also learned to be patient with herself when things didn't go perfectly. There were days when the rice took longer to cook or when she accidentally overcooked a batch. Rather than becoming discouraged, she reminded herself that learning was part of healing. This new way of eating was a process, one that required kindness, flexibility, and an openness to discovery. She also found that cooking wild rice at home gave her control over ingredients. Unlike many packaged or restaurant dishes, she could avoid hidden sugars, excess sodium, or preservatives that might sabotage her efforts. This sense of empowerment, knowing exactly what went into her meals, was a powerful motivator. Dr. Nguyen's words echoed in her mind. It's not just about what you eat, but how you prepare it. Elysia realized that the ritual of cooking, the intention she put into it, was a form of self-respect. Every carefully stirred pot, every cooled and reheated serving was an act of love for her body and future. Despite the effort, Elysia found joy in this routine. Cooking became a meditation, a way to slow down and connect with the present moment. She looked forward to trying new recipes, learning new techniques, and savoring each bite. Food was no longer an enemy or a source of anxiety, but a source of strength and renewal. As the weeks passed, Elysia's body responded in kind. Her blood sugar level stabilized, and she felt more energized throughout the day. The heaviness that had once clouded her mornings lifted, replaced by a quiet confidence that came from knowing she was doing something meaningful. The simple grain of wild rice had become a symbol of her resilience. Elysia also became more mindful of portion sizes. She learned that even healthy carbohydrates needed balance. Half a cup of cooked wild rice was enough to enjoy the benefits without overwhelming her blood sugar. Pairing it with lean proteins and colorful vegetables made her meals balanced and satisfying. These habits felt less like restrictions and more like gifts she gave herself. Sometimes friends and neighbors would ask about her new diet, curious about the changes they saw in her. Elysia shared her story openly, hoping to inspire others to explore their own paths to better health. She emphasized that it wasn't about perfection, but about small, steady steps toward wellness. One afternoon, as she prepared a batch of wild rice to share with Lynn's family, Elysia reflected on how far she had come. The journey from fear and uncertainty to knowledge and empowerment was not easy, but it was deeply rewarding. The grain that once seemed strange and unfamiliar was now a trusted friend, a cornerstone of her healing. This chapter of her story was a testament to the power of intention and care. By learning to cook wild rice for maximum benefit, Elysia had unlocked a new level of connection with her food and her body. It was a reminder that healing is not just about what we eat, but how we engage with the nourishment we choose. With each meal shared and each new recipe discovered, Elysia was writing a new story, one of hope, strength, and gentle transformation. Wild rice was more than food, it was a symbol of her journey back to health and the loving attention she now gave herself every day. Elysia's journey toward healthier eating had blossomed in so many ways, but she knew there was still much to learn. While she had discovered the powerful benefits of wild rice and other whole grains, she was also becoming aware of the hidden dangers lurking in some of the more familiar types of rice she had long considered staples. It was a sobering realization that some of her most comforting meals might be undermining her health. One afternoon, as she sat with Dr. Nguyen reviewing her latest blood sugar readings, he gently reminded her, "Elysia, it's just as important to know which types of rice to avoid as it is to know which ones to embrace." She nodded, her mind turning to the bags of white rice and sticky rice that still lingered in her pantry, and memories of dishes she'd prepared for decades. Dr. Nguyen explained that white rice, though widely loved for its soft texture and versatility, was a highly processed grain. The outer layers, the bran and germ, were removed during milling, stripping away much of its fiber, vitamins, and minerals. This process left behind mostly simple starches that were rapidly digested, causing sharp spikes in blood sugar. White rice has a glycemic index typically between 70 and 90, he said quietly, which means it can send blood sugar soaring quickly, followed by crashes that make managing diabetes more difficult. Elysia recalled the fatigue and irritability she had often felt after eating her usual white rice dishes, wondering now if these symptoms were linked to those blood sugar roller coasters. She thought about family dinners where rice was the centerpiece, soft, comforting, but perhaps dangerous in disguise. This knowledge was bittersweet, a mix of regret and determination. She was grateful for the insight, but mourned the loss of foods that once symbolized warmth and togetherness. Sticky rice, or glutinous rice as it was sometimes called, was another rice variety Dr. Nguyen warned her about. Its very name suggested its high starch content, making it especially quick to raise blood sugar. Sticky rice can have a glycemic index near 90, he explained, which is very high and can cause significant blood sugar spikes. Elysia thought of sushi dinners and festive dishes where sticky rice was a star ingredient. The chewy texture and familiar taste had always been favorites, but now they carried a hidden risk. Then there were flavored and instant rice products, convenient, quick options that often appealed to busy people like her daughter Lynn. Yet these came with their own pitfalls. Packaged flavored rice dishes sometimes contained added sugars, unhealthy fats, preservatives, and excess sodium. These hidden ingredients could worsen diabetes management, contributing to inflammation and blood pressure issues. Always check ingredient lists, Dr. Nguyen advised, and avoid packaged rice blends with additives whenever possible. Elysia began to see how the rice she ate was more than just a carbohydrate. It was a complex player in her health story. This realization sparked a new wave of mindfulness. She started scrutinizing labels, asking questions, and seeking out natural, unprocessed options. It wasn't always easy. The convenience and taste of familiar rice varieties were hard to replace. But she knew that true care required awareness and sometimes sacrifice. At family gatherings, Elysia gently shared what she had learned. Some relatives were curious and supportive, while others were skeptical or resistant. Food was deeply tied to culture and tradition, and change wasn't always welcome. Yet Elysia's calm confidence and the visible improvements in her health spoke volumes. Over time, more family members began to explore alternatives, discovering new dishes that honored heritage while supporting wellness. The challenges of avoiding certain types of rice sometimes tested Elysia's resolve. There were moments when cravings for the soft, white rice she once loved felt overwhelming. But she reminded herself of the path she had chosen, one of healing, balance, and respect for her body's needs. The knowledge that some rice varieties could sabotage her progress was a powerful motivator to stay on course. In her quiet moments, Elysia reflected on how this journey wasn't just about rice or diabetes. It was about reclaiming control in a world where so much felt uncertain. Every decision to choose whole grains over processed options was an act of self-love and empowerment. The rice she avoided wasn't just food, it was a symbol of the old patterns she was letting go. Her experience inspired her to explore other staples and ingredients, seeking ways to nurture herself fully. She found joy in experimenting with new recipes, discovering herbs, spices, and vegetables that complemented her meals and supported her health. This holistic approach deepened her connection to food as medicine and comfort. Elysia also learned the importance of balance and moderation. Avoiding white and sticky rice didn't mean deprivation, but opening space for nourishing alternatives. She embraced the idea that healing was a journey, not a destination, and that each small choice mattered. This mindset brought peace and patience, allowing her to progress steadily without harsh judgment. The warnings about certain rice types became lessons in awareness rather than fear. Elysia understood that knowledge was power, and with it came freedom, the freedom to make choices aligned with her well-being. She felt grateful for the guidance of her doctors, the support of her family, and her own growing resilience. As the seasons changed, Elysia's kitchen transformed. The shelves once lined with familiar white rice gave way to bags of wild rice, black rice, and brown basmati. New recipes filled her meal plans, and her relationship with food blossomed into one of curiosity and care. The rice she once avoided now felt like an old chapter closed, making room for a vibrant new story. In embracing what to avoid, Elysia had discovered what to cherish. This clarity was a turning point in her journey, a moment of empowerment that fueled her commitment to health. She knew the path ahead wouldn't always be easy, but with each mindful meal, she was building a foundation of strength and hope. Her story became a quiet inspiration to those around her. Friends and neighbors sought her advice, encouraged by her calm confidence and glowing vitality. Elysia shared openly, not with judgment, but with compassion and understanding. She reminded them gently that change was possible and that the foods we choose can either heal or harm. This chapter of Elysia's journey was a testament to the power of knowledge and mindful living. It wasn't just about avoiding certain types of rice. It was about embracing a life where every choice honored her body's needs. Through this awareness, she was crafting a future filled with health, joy, and resilience. And so, with gentle resolve, Elysia stepped forward, leaving behind the rice that no longer served her and welcoming the nourishing grains that supported her thriving life. This was more than a dietary shift. It was a transformation of heart, mind, and body, a true renewal that would carry her forward on the path to well-being. As Elysia continued her journey through the world of healthier grains, she became fascinated by black rice, often called the forbidden rice because of its deep, mysterious color and rich history. She had heard whispers about its incredible antioxidant properties, but hadn't yet had the chance to experience it herself. The moment came on a bright Sunday morning when Lynn brought home a package of black rice, eager to share this new discovery with her mother. The grains looked striking, glossy, almost black with a slight purple sheen. Cooking black rice was an adventure. The aroma was intoxicating, earthy yet sweet, filling the kitchen with warmth. Elysia was curious, hopeful that this grain could be another powerful tool in her growing arsenal to manage diabetes and improve her overall health. Dr. Nguyen had once told her, "Black rice is one of the most antioxidant-rich grains you can find. These antioxidants help fight inflammation and oxidative stress, which are major contributors to many chronic diseases, including diabetes." Hearing this, Elysia felt a flicker of excitement. She imagined the antioxidants as tiny warriors battling quietly within her body, protecting her cells from damage and helping her heal. The science behind black rice's antioxidants centered around a group of compounds called anthocyanins, the same ones that give blueberries and blackberries their dark colors. These compounds were known not just for their vibrant hues, but also for their ability to neutralize harmful free radicals, reducing inflammation and supporting heart health. For Elysia, who worried about the long-term effects of diabetes on her cardiovascular system, this was especially reassuring. She began incorporating black rice into her meals, mixing it with vibrant vegetables and lean proteins. The slightly nutty, earthy flavor was different from the wild rice she had grown fond of, but she found herself enjoying the variety and richness it brought to her plate. Each meal was a celebration of color, texture, and nutrition, a sensory reminder of the care she was giving to herself. Lynn was intrigued by black rice too and loved helping prepare dishes like black rice salad with fresh herbs and a light lemon dressing. Cooking became a family affair, a way to deepen bonds and share the joy of nourishing food. Elysia felt grateful for this new connection, knowing that her journey was not solitary but supported by those she loved. Beyond taste and family moments, Elysia noticed subtle changes in her health. Her energy levels seemed steadier and she felt less sluggish after meals. She understood that black rice's antioxidants were working beneath the surface, calming inflammation that often made her joints ache and her body feel tired. It was a gentle but powerful shift that gave her hope for the future. She also learned that black rice was a good source of protein and magnesium, nutrients she had come to value deeply in her diet. This made it a well-rounded grain, supporting blood sugar control and overall vitality. The idea that one simple ingredient could offer such a broad spectrum of benefits fascinated her and deepened her respect for whole, natural foods. Elysia took care to cook black rice properly, allowing it to cool before reheating to maximize the resistant starch content that helped regulate blood sugar. She delighted in finding small ways to optimize her meals, turning everyday cooking into a mindful practice. This attention to detail made her feel empowered rather than restricted. Sharing her experiences with Dr. Nguyen during her regular visits brought further encouragement. "You're making excellent choices, Elysia," he said with a smile. "Including antioxidant-rich foods like black rice can improve your insulin sensitivity and protect your heart. It's a wonderful addition to your diet." These words were balm to Elysia's spirit. Managing diabetes often felt overwhelming, but knowing she could take active steps to protect herself gave her strength. She embraced black rice as more than food. It was a symbol of her resilience and her commitment to living well. The journey also brought challenges. Black rice was not always easy to find or affordable, and sometimes its taste took getting used to. Yet Elysia learned to be patient and creative, combining it with other grains or dishes to suit her palate and budget. Flexibility became a key part of her approach, reminding her that healing wasn't about perfection, but progress. In quiet moments, Elysia reflected on how far she had come since her diagnosis. From confusion and fear to knowledge and empowerment, her path was marked by small but meaningful steps. Black rice was a shining example of this transformation, a once unfamiliar grain now cherished for its healing qualities. Her story inspired those around her. Friends asked about the grains she ate, curious about the changes they saw. Elysia shared openly not just recipes, but the feelings behind them: hope, courage, and the determination to reclaim her health. She wanted others to know that even small changes could ripple into profound healing. This chapter of Elysia's journey was a testament to the power of nature's gifts and the wisdom of listening to one's body. Black rice was more than a food, it was a partner in her ongoing dance toward balance and vitality. Each spoonful carried the promise of strength, protection, and renewal. As the sun set on another day, Elysia felt a quiet gratitude for the journey unfolding before her. The deep purple grains in her bowl were a reminder that healing was possible, beautiful, complex, and deeply personal. With every meal, she was weaving a story of hope, resilience, and the gentle power of food to transform not just the body, but the spirit. As Elysia became more comfortable cooking and eating black rice, she found herself curious about the science behind its health benefits. She remembered Dr. Nguyen mentioning something called the glycemic index, a measure of how quickly foods raise blood sugar levels. It was a concept that had seemed complicated at first, but the more she learned, the more it made sense and gave her confidence in the choices she was making. One afternoon, while preparing dinner, Elysia recalled the doctor's words. Black rice typically has a glycemic index between 42 and 50, which is much lower than white rice's 70 to 90. This means black rice releases sugar into the bloodstream more slowly, helping to prevent sudden spikes. Hearing this reassured her. It was as if black rice was helping to keep her blood sugar steady and calm, something she had been desperately trying to achieve. She thought about the many times she had eaten white rice in the past and later felt drained and hungry again shortly afterward. The rapid spike and crash of her blood sugar had made her feel tired and irritable, and sometimes even triggered headaches. Now, with black rice on her plate, those episodes seemed less frequent. Meals felt more satisfying and sustaining, and her energy stayed more consistent throughout the day. Elysia's curiosity grew. She started reading more about the glycemic index and how it was influenced by the type of carbohydrate, fiber content, and food preparation. Black rice's low glycemic index wasn't a coincidence. It was tied to its high fiber, protein, and antioxidant content. These factors worked together to slow digestion and absorption, helping her body handle sugar more gracefully. One weekend, Elysia decided to test the difference herself. She prepared 2 meals on separate days, one with white rice, the other with black rice, both paired with similar vegetables and proteins. She carefully monitored how she felt afterward. The day she ate white rice, she noticed the familiar roller coaster, a quick burst of energy followed by a slump that left her craving sweets. But after the black rice meal, she felt steady and content, without the urgent hunger or fatigue. This personal experiment deepened her trust in the food she was choosing. She realized that understanding the glycemic index was not just academic, but practical, a tool she could use to guide her daily decisions. It gave her power to move beyond fear and confusion toward intentional, informed living. Elysia also shared these insights with Lynn, who was eager to learn and support her mother. Together, they explored other low glycemic foods, expanding their meal options and keeping their diet vibrant. Cooking became an adventure of discovery rather than restriction, filled with flavors and textures that delighted both body and soul. Dr. Nguyen's encouragement during her visits was a steady source of motivation. "Your progress is impressive, Elysia," he said with warmth. "Choosing foods with a low glycemic index like black rice can improve your insulin sensitivity and reduce complications." These affirmations gave her confidence to continue, even when challenges arose. Elysia also learned the importance of portion control in managing blood sugar. Even with low glycemic foods, eating too much could still raise glucose levels undesirably. She practiced measuring servings and listening to her body's signals of fullness, cultivating mindfulness in every meal. This balance felt empowering rather than restrictive, a natural rhythm she was grateful to find. The science behind black rice's low glycemic index also helped Elysia explain her choices to friends and family. She found that sharing knowledge opened doors to understanding rather than judgment. Many relatives became curious, asking for recipes or tips on how to incorporate black rice into their diets. Elysia welcomed these conversations, glad to inspire others toward healthier living. Despite the positive changes, Elysia remained gentle with herself. Some days were harder than others, with cravings or social occasions challenging her resolve. But the steady energy and improved well-being she experienced after eating black rice reminded her of the benefits waiting on the other side of effort. Elysia also noticed how her moods improved as her blood sugar stabilized. The anxiety and irritability that once shadowed her days seemed to lift, replaced by a calmness and clarity she hadn't felt in years. This mental shift was as important as the physical changes, helping her engage more fully with life and relationships. As she looked back on her journey, Elysia marveled at how something as simple as choosing a different grain of rice had opened the door to a new way of living. Black rice, with its low glycemic index and rich nutrients, was not just food on her plate, but a symbol of hope and healing. Her experience inspired her to continue learning, exploring other foods and habits that could support her health. She embraced the idea that managing diabetes was a lifelong process, one that required patience, curiosity, and compassion. With every meal, she was building a foundation for a vibrant, balanced life. Elysia's story became a quiet beacon in her community. She shared her knowledge generously, encouraging others to pay attention to the quality of their food and the science behind it. Her journey was proof that understanding and intention could transform even the most challenging diagnoses into opportunities for growth. As the seasons turned, Elysia felt a deep gratitude for the choices she had made and the wisdom she had gained. Black rice was a cherished part of her diet now, a delicious, nourishing reminder of resilience. With each spoonful, she celebrated not just the flavor, but the steady path toward wellness she was walking. This chapter of Elysia's life was about more than controlling blood sugar. It was about reclaiming her body's strength, mind's peace, and spirit's hope. Black rice, with its humble appearance but powerful impact, was a shining example of nature's gifts when met with care and respect. And so, with grace and determination, Elysia continued forward, nourished by knowledge, love, and the simple, profound power of a well-chosen grain. As Elysia settled into her new way of eating, black rice quickly became one of her favorite ingredients. Its deep color, nutty flavor, and health benefits made it more than just a grain. It was a symbol of her growing commitment to nurturing her body. But like many things on a journey of change, incorporating black rice into everyday meals required learning and creativity. One morning, while planning the week's menu, Elysia thought about how to make black rice more approachable for her whole family. She knew that unfamiliar foods could sometimes be met with hesitation, especially from her grandchildren who were used to the softer textures of white rice. But she believed that with the right recipes and a little patience, black rice could win their hearts as it had won hers. She started with simple dishes. One favorite was a black rice salad, tossed with fresh vegetables, toasted nuts, and a light lemon vinaigrette. The colors were vibrant, the textures varied, a crunchy bite here, a chewy grain there. Lynn joined in, chopping cucumbers and tomatoes, and they laughed as they experimented with flavors. It was a meal that felt fresh and satisfying, perfect for warm days or quick lunches. Elysia also discovered that black rice worked beautifully in soups and stews. Adding cooked black rice to vegetable soups gave the dishes a heartiness and depth that made them more filling and nutritious. On chilly evenings, a bowl of black rice and lentil stew became comfort food, warming, nourishing, and gentle on her blood sugar. These dishes felt like hugs in a bowl, strengthening her body and spirit. Breakfast was another opportunity to enjoy black rice. Elysia tried cooking it with coconut milk and a touch of cinnamon, creating a creamy, pudding-like dish that was both sweet and satisfying. Topped with fresh berries and a sprinkle of nuts, it was a delicious way to start the day, fueling her with steady energy. She smiled as she imagined her body waking up, nourished and ready for the hours ahead. Through trial and error, Elysia learned a few helpful tips that made cooking black rice easier and more enjoyable. She found that soaking the grains for a few hours before cooking reduced the cooking time and improved the texture, making it softer and more digestible. Using a rice cooker was another time saver, allowing her to prepare meals even on busy days without fuss. Elysia also discovered that letting cooked black rice cool before eating increased its resistant starch content, which helped regulate blood sugar. This meant that leftovers weren't just convenient, they were beneficial. She began making extra portions intentionally, planning meals around the grains she'd prepared earlier. This practice made her feel resourceful and in control, rather than rushed or overwhelmed. Sharing her newfound recipes with friends became a joy. At neighborhood gatherings, she brought black rice dishes that surprised and delighted others. People were curious, asking questions, and often eager to try the wholesome, flavorful meals she prepared. Elysia felt proud knowing she was not only nourishing herself, but also inspiring others to explore healthier choices. Still, Elysia knew that consistency was key. The benefits of black rice, like all whole grains, came from regular inclusion in her diet. She made it a habit to include black rice at least a few times a week, balancing it with a variety of other nutrient-rich foods. This approach kept her meals interesting and her body well supported. Elysia also paid attention to pairing black rice with complementary ingredients. She favored lean proteins like grilled chicken, fish, or tofu, which helped stabilize blood sugar further. Colorful vegetables, rich in fiber and antioxidants, rounded out her plates, creating balanced meals that satisfied both hunger and health needs. She appreciated how these combinations made eating both joyful and purposeful. During a visit to the local farmer's market, Elysia chatted with a vendor who sold organic black rice. They discussed different cooking techniques and recipe ideas, and Elysia felt connected to a community that valued wholesome, natural food. This sense of belonging reinforced her commitment to her new lifestyle, making her journey feel less solitary. Elysia also learned to listen to her body's responses to black rice and other foods. Some days she noticed subtle shifts, more energy, better digestion, improved mood. Other days she was more tired or had mild discomfort, reminding her that healing was not always linear. This awareness encouraged her to be gentle and patient, adapting as needed without judgment. As she continued to explore, Elysia kept a small journal where she noted recipes, favorite meals, and how she felt after eating. This practice helped her stay engaged and motivated, turning meal planning into a creative, mindful exercise. Reflecting on her progress gave her confidence and a sense of accomplishment. One afternoon, Elysia invited her daughter and grandchildren for a meal featuring black rice stir-fry with tofu and a medley of vegetables. The children were curious but eager to taste. To her delight, they enjoyed the dish, asking for seconds and praising the flavors. This moment was a victory, a sign that healthy changes could be embraced by the whole family, weaving new traditions grounded in care and connection. Through these experiences, Elysia realized that adding black rice to everyday meals was about more than nutrition. It was about creating joy, sharing love, and building resilience. Each meal was a chance to nurture herself and those around her, strengthening bonds and supporting health. Her journey with black rice taught her patience and creativity. She learned to adapt, experiment, and celebrate small wins. The humble grain had become a symbol of transformation, a reminder that healing was possible through mindful choices and the willingness to try something new. Elysia's story inspired many who heard it. She encouraged others to explore black rice and whole grains, sharing tips and recipes with warmth and understanding. Her message was clear. Change doesn't have to be daunting. It can be a delicious, joyful adventure. As the sun set on another day, Elysia felt gratitude for the simple, nourishing meals she shared with family and friends. Black rice was no longer just an ingredient. It was a thread woven into the fabric of her renewed life, a life filled with hope, strength, and the gentle power of mindful eating. Elysia's kitchen was beginning to feel like a treasure trove of grains, each with its unique colors, flavors, and stories. After falling in love with wild rice and black rice, she was eager to explore another variety her doctor had recommended: brown basmati rice. It was described as a smart choice for people managing diabetes, and Elysia was curious to understand why. One sunny afternoon, while unpacking groceries, Elysia ran her fingers over the slender grains of brown basmati rice. Their light tan color and delicate aroma reminded her of far-off places she had only dreamed of visiting. Cooking this rice was a little different from the others she had tried, but she embraced the new challenge with enthusiasm. Dr. Nguyen had once explained, brown basmati rice has a moderate glycemic index, usually between 50 and 58, which is significantly lower than white rice. This means it releases sugar into your bloodstream more slowly, helping to maintain stable blood glucose levels. Hearing this reassured Elysia. It was another tool to help manage her condition without sacrificing the pleasure of eating. She appreciated that brown basmati rice was a whole grain, meaning it retained its bran and germ layers, which contained valuable fiber, vitamins, and minerals. This fiber not only helped slow digestion and control blood sugar spikes, but also supported digestive health by feeding beneficial gut bacteria. For Elysia, who was learning the importance of gut health and overall well-being, this was a welcome benefit. One evening, Elysia prepared a meal of brown basmati rice paired with grilled salmon and sautéed spinach. The aroma filled the kitchen with warmth and comfort. As she took her first bite, she felt the nutty, slightly floral flavor of the rice dance on her palate. It was a different experience from the wild and black rice she loved, but equally satisfying. She marveled at how food could be both medicine and pleasure. Her daughter Lynn was curious about the new addition to their meals and asked questions about how brown basmati rice could help with diabetes. Elysia shared what she had learned: the moderate glycemic index, the fiber content, and the richness in magnesium and protein. They talked about how magnesium helped insulin work better in the body, a crucial aspect of diabetes management. Elysia found comfort in knowing that this rice was also rich in antioxidants, which played a role in fighting oxidative stress and inflammation, common problems for those with diabetes. The science behind these grains made her feel empowered, turning each meal into a deliberate act of healing and care. Cooking brown basmati rice required a bit of patience, as it took longer to soften than white rice, but Elysia learned that soaking the rice beforehand reduced the cooking time and improved its texture. She also practiced the trick of cooking the rice, cooling it in the refrigerator overnight, and reheating it before eating to boost the resistant starch content. This simple method helped her body handle carbohydrates more gently. Meals with brown basmati rice became a regular part of Elysia's menu rotation. She enjoyed making stir-fries, pilafs, and even soups with this versatile grain. The fiber-rich rice kept her feeling full and energized, reducing the temptation to snack between meals. She noticed that her blood sugar readings were more stable on days when she included brown basmati rice, which motivated her to continue exploring healthy recipes. The journey wasn't without its challenges. Sometimes Elysia missed the softness and familiarity of white rice, especially during family celebrations. But she reminded herself of the reasons behind her choices: the desire to live well, to have energy, and to avoid the complications she feared. This mindset helped her stay committed even when cravings arose. Elysia's growing knowledge of whole grains also sparked conversations with friends and neighbors. Many were surprised to learn about the differences in glycemic index and nutrient content among rice varieties. Elysia shared tips on cooking and incorporating brown basmati rice into traditional dishes, making it more accessible and appealing. One day, a neighbor invited Elysia to a potluck where she brought a brown basmati rice salad with roasted vegetables and a light herb dressing. The dish was met with delight and curiosity. Elysia felt proud to contribute something nourishing and delicious, knowing that she was sharing not just food, but hope and health. In quiet moments, Elysia reflected on how much her relationship with food had changed. From fear and confusion to curiosity and empowerment, her journey was marked by gradual shifts and newfound respect for her body's needs. Brown basmati rice was a symbol of this transformation, a reminder that small, mindful choices could create lasting impact. She also grew more patient and compassionate with herself. Managing diabetes was not about perfection, but about persistence. Every meal prepared with intention, every bite of nutrient-rich grain was a step toward balance and well-being. As she continued to explore, Elysia realized that her journey was also about reclaiming joy. Cooking and eating became opportunities to connect with loved ones, celebrate culture, and honor the resilience of her body. The grains she chose were not just ingredients, but storytellers, carrying wisdom and healing through generations. Elysia's story inspired others to look beyond surface foods and discover the deeper qualities that nourished health. She encouraged friends to experiment with whole grains, to listen to their bodies, and to approach food as a source of strength rather than restriction. With each meal featuring brown basmati rice, Elysia celebrated not only the flavors, but the power of knowledge and choice. Her path was a reminder that healing is a journey of discovery, patience, and love. Through mindful eating, she was building a foundation for a vibrant, balanced life. As the sun set on another day, Elysia felt gratitude for the grains that had become her allies and the wisdom she had gained. Brown basmati rice was no longer just a food, but a symbol of hope, resilience, and the quiet courage it takes to change. Elysia's exploration of brown basmati rice had quickly become one of her favorite parts of this new lifestyle. But as with any ingredient new to her kitchen, she soon realized that how she prepared this grain mattered just as much as choosing to eat it. The gentle guidance of Dr. Nguyen reminded her that the way rice was cooked could influence its impact on blood sugar. And this insight opened a new door for her, a door toward even smarter, more mindful cooking. One crisp morning, Elysia stood in her sunlit kitchen, ready to experiment. She had learned that soaking brown basmati rice before cooking was a simple but effective way to improve its texture and reduce cooking time. More importantly, soaking could also lower the grain's glycemic index, making it easier on her blood sugar. This small act of preparation felt like a ritual, a way to infuse care and intention into her meals. She poured the rice into a wide bowl and covered it with cool water, letting it rest for several hours. While waiting, she reflected on how this practice, passed down through generations in some cultures, had a practical science behind it. The soaking softened the bran layer, helped release some starches, and made the rice more digestible. For Elysia, these benefits translated into a more stable blood sugar response, which was essential for her health. After soaking, Elysia rinsed the rice thoroughly and transferred it to her rice cooker. She added the perfect ratio of water, remembering Dr. Nguyen's advice that using slightly less water than usual could keep the grains fluffy and prevent them from becoming mushy. The rhythmic sound of the cooker humming filled the kitchen, a comforting background to her hopeful thoughts. While the rice cooked, Elysia prepared the rest of her meal, sautéed kale with garlic and a grilled fillet of salmon. These nutrient-rich sides were chosen not only for flavor, but to complement the brown basmati rice's slow-release carbohydrates with protein, fiber, and healthy fats. This balanced meal felt like a celebration of her journey, a fusion of science, tradition, and love. Once the rice finished cooking, Elysia spread it out on a large plate to cool before serving. She had learned from her research that allowing cooked rice to cool increased the formation of resistant starch, a special type of carbohydrate that acted like fiber, feeding beneficial gut bacteria and improving blood sugar control. This cooling step was a revelation to her, turning a simple dish into a functional medicine. That evening, as she ate, Elysia savored each bite with gratitude. The brown basmati rice was nutty, tender, and satisfying, nothing like the overcooked white rice she used to eat without thought. She noticed how the meal left her feeling comfortably full, without the sharp hunger or energy dips that had plagued her before. Over the next few weeks, Elysia refined her cooking routine. She often prepared larger batches of brown basmati rice, cooled it in the refrigerator overnight, and reheated portions as needed. This approach made meal prep easier and ensured she benefited from the resistant starch each time. She found that reheated rice had a slightly firmer texture but was just as delicious when paired with her favorite vegetables and proteins. Elysia also experimented with adding a splash of lemon juice or a pinch of salt to the soaking water, traditional practices said to improve flavor and digestibility. These small touches connected her to cultural roots and gave her a deeper appreciation for food preparation as an art and a science. Cooking brown basmati rice in this mindful way transformed more than just her meals. It shifted her relationship with food itself. She moved from rushing through meals or eating out of habit to engaging fully with the process, honoring the care she was putting into her body. This mindful cooking became a form of meditation, a chance to slow down and connect with herself. Family dinners took on new meaning. Lynn often joined Elysia in the kitchen, eager to learn these techniques. They shared stories and laughter as they prepared meals together, building memories alongside nourishment. Elysia felt proud to pass on not just recipes, but a way of caring for oneself through food. Dr. Nguyen's encouragement during checkups reinforced Elysia's confidence. "You're doing wonderfully," he said with a warm smile. "The way you prepare your meals is making a real difference. Resistant starch and balanced cooking methods can significantly help with blood sugar control." His words were a balm, affirming her efforts and motivating her to keep going. Elysia also grew more aware of portion sizes and timing. She learned to listen to her body's signals of fullness and to avoid eating too late in the evening, which could disrupt her blood sugar balance. Combining the right foods at the right times created a harmony she hadn't known before. This evolving knowledge empowered Elysia to approach food with joy rather than fear. She no longer saw diabetes management as a list of restrictions, but as an opportunity to explore, create, and connect. Each meal was a chance to nurture herself deeply and celebrate her resilience. One afternoon, as she prepared a batch of brown basmati rice for a family picnic, Elysia felt a profound gratitude. The journey that had started with fear and confusion had blossomed into a rich experience of learning and love. The grains in her hands were a testament to transformation, not just in her body, but in her heart and spirit. She knew there would still be challenges ahead. Life was unpredictable, and managing diabetes was an ongoing process. But with each mindful choice and every carefully prepared meal, Elysia was building a foundation of health and hope. Her story was a gentle reminder that healing comes not only from medicines, but from the everyday acts of care we offer ourselves. Brown basmati rice, once a simple grain, had become a symbol of this care, a delicious, nourishing thread woven through the fabric of her renewed life. As the sun set and the kitchen filled with the aroma of her cooking, Elysia smiled. She was not defined by her diagnosis, but empowered by her choices. Through patience, knowledge, and love, she was creating a future where health and happiness could flourish, one meal at a time. Despite all the progress Elysia had made in her journey toward better health, there remained one lingering challenge she had to face: the allure and the hidden dangers of white rice and sticky rice. For many years, these had been the heart of her meals, the familiar comforts that brought her family together. But now, armed with new knowledge and a growing sense of care for her body, she saw these beloved staples in a different light. It was during one of her visits with Dr. Nguyen that the reality was laid out plainly but gently. "Elysia," he began, "white rice is highly processed. During milling, the bran and germ, the parts rich in fiber and nutrients, are removed. This leaves mostly simple starch, which digests quickly and raises blood sugar sharply." She listened attentively, the weight of those words settling in her chest like a quiet alarm. The glycemic index of white rice, Dr. Nguyen explained, often ranged from 70 to 90, meaning it caused rapid spikes in blood sugar. For someone with diabetes, these spikes could be dangerous, leading to fatigue, irritability, and long-term complications. Elysia thought back to the times after meals when she felt drained or ravenous again just hours later. Now she understood why. Sticky rice, popular in many traditional dishes and celebrations, carried similar risks but with even higher glycemic indexes. Its glutinous texture, she learned, came from an abundance of rapidly digestible starch, causing blood sugar to surge dramatically. This knowledge made her reflect on holiday meals and family gatherings, where sticky rice was often the centerpiece. These were moments filled with joy and connection, yet the food that brought such warmth could also jeopardize her health. Elysia felt a mix of emotions. There was sadness for what she might have unknowingly done to her body over the years, but also determination to protect herself going forward. She realized that avoiding white and sticky rice wasn't about rejecting culture or tradition, but about choosing longevity and well-being. Making these changes was easier said than done. White rice was ingrained in many recipes and celebrations. It was a familiar texture, a comforting taste. Sometimes she missed the softness and neutrality it brought to her meals, but each time she gave in to those cravings, she reminded herself of her goals, the desire to live fully and healthily. Elysia sought alternatives that could honor tradition while safeguarding her health. She introduced brown basmati, black rice, and wild rice into dishes that once relied on white or sticky rice. Some experiments were successes, others required tweaking, but every effort brought her closer to a balanced life. She also became more vigilant about flavored and instant rice products. Though convenient, these often contained hidden sugars, preservatives, and excess salt, ingredients that could worsen her blood sugar control. Elysia learned to read labels carefully and to cook at home whenever possible, controlling what went into her meals. Family dinners became moments of gentle education. Elysia shared her reasons for choosing different grains, emphasizing health and care rather than restriction. Some relatives were curious and supportive, others more hesitant. But over time, shared meals with nourishing grains began to create new memories and traditions. Social occasions still posed challenges. At weddings or festivals, the smell of sticky rice or white rice dishes brought memories and longing. Elysia learned to navigate these moments with kindness, allowing herself small tastes without guilt, but balancing them with healthier choices and physical activity afterward. Her mindset evolved from deprivation to empowerment. Avoiding white and sticky rice was not punishment, but a loving choice for her future. She celebrated the grains that nourished her and learned to appreciate food as medicine and joy. Elysia's experience inspired friends and neighbors to reconsider their own choices. She shared recipes and cooking tips, helping others discover the benefits of whole grains. These connections deepened her sense of community and purpose. As she reflected on her journey, Elysia realized that the hidden dangers of white and sticky rice were not just about the grains themselves, but about awareness and intention. Choosing what to eat with knowledge and care was a powerful act of self-love. Her story became a gentle reminder that healing involves both embracing what nourishes us and letting go of what harms. With patience and compassion, Elysia walked this path, turning away from old habits and toward a future rich with health and hope. Each mindful meal was a step forward. Each grain chosen was a seed planted for a vibrant, balanced life. And with every choice, Elysia felt the quiet strength that comes from honoring one's body and journey. Elysia's journey toward managing her diabetes was shaped not only by the types of rice she chose, but by the habits she cultivated around eating itself. Over time, she realized that how and when she ate could be just as important as what she put on her plate. These subtle shifts in her daily routine became powerful tools to keep her blood sugar steady and her body feeling strong. One of the first habits Elysia adopted was slowing down during meals. She remembered how, in her busier days, she often ate quickly, sometimes distracted by the television or rushing through lunch between errands. Now she made a conscious effort to eat mindfully, savoring each bite, appreciating the flavors and textures. This simple change helped her recognize when she was full, preventing overeating and the uncomfortable fullness that often led to blood sugar spikes. Elysia also learned about the importance of portion control. Even with healthier rice options, eating too much at once could overwhelm her body's ability to manage glucose. She started using smaller plates and measuring servings to keep portions balanced. This mindful approach felt freeing rather than restrictive, empowering her to listen to her body's signals instead of mindlessly eating until the plate was empty. Another shift involved balancing meals with protein and fiber. Elysia discovered that pairing her rice with lean proteins like grilled chicken, fish, or beans, along with plenty of non-starchy vegetables, helped slow digestion and smooth out blood sugar fluctuations. This combination not only kept her feeling full longer, but provided essential nutrients that supported her overall health. Timing her meals became a key part of her routine. Elysia found that eating at regular intervals, 3 balanced meals with healthy snacks if needed, helped maintain consistent energy levels. Skipping meals or waiting too long to eat often led to dips and spikes in her blood sugar, causing fatigue or cravings. By honoring her body's rhythm, she felt more stable and in control. Hydration was another important habit. Elysia made sure to drink plenty of water throughout the day, understanding that dehydration could affect blood sugar regulation and increase hunger. She carried a water bottle with her and enjoyed herbal teas that added comfort without sugar. This simple practice became a pillar of her wellness. Elysia also embraced the power of preparation. Planning meals ahead of time helped her avoid last-minute choices that might be less healthy. She cooked larger batches of brown basmati or wild rice and stored portions in the fridge, ready to be paired with fresh vegetables or proteins. This planning reduced stress and kept her diet consistent. Social settings posed challenges to these habits, but Elysia developed gentle strategies to navigate them. At family dinners or outings, she focused on enjoying the company and choosing the best options available. She reminded herself that occasional indulgences were part of life, and that balance was the goal, not perfection. Exercise complemented her eating habits. Even gentle walks after meals helped regulate blood sugar and improved her mood. Elysia found joy in moving her body, feeling it respond positively to the care she was giving through food and activity. She also kept a journal to track her meals, moods, and blood sugar readings. This practice gave her insight into what worked best for her body and helped identify patterns. Over time, she adjusted her habits with growing confidence and compassion. Elysia's family supported her efforts. Lynn often joined her in meal preparation and encouraged her to take time for self-care. Their shared journey strengthened their bond and created a supportive environment for change. Through these habits, Elysia experienced not just physical improvements, but emotional growth. She felt calmer, more empowered, and more connected to herself. Eating became a source of pleasure and healing rather than stress or guilt. Her story inspired others to consider not just what they eat, but how they eat. She shared her experiences in community groups, offering practical tips and encouragement. Her message was clear. Small, mindful changes in eating habits can have a profound impact on managing diabetes and enhancing quality of life. As the seasons changed, Elysia reflected on how far she had come. The journey was ongoing with ups and downs, but each day offered new opportunities to choose health and joy. Her evolving relationship with food was a testament to resilience and hope. With gratitude and grace, Elysia embraced these habits as part of her daily rhythm, a rhythm that supported steady blood sugar, sustained energy, and a vibrant life. She knew that by nurturing her body with care and intention, she was honoring the precious gift of health and the promise of many good days ahead. After months of careful exploration and thoughtful changes, Elysia had come to understand that managing her diabetes was about more than just picking the right types of rice. It was also about choosing and storing them in ways that preserve their health benefits. This final step in her journey became a meaningful ritual, a way to honor both the food and the body she was committed to caring for. One bright Saturday morning, Elysia walked into her local market with a list of what she needed, but more importantly, with a new eye for quality and purity. She knew that not all wild, black, or brown basmati rice were created equal. Some bags were filled with additives, preservatives, or even hidden sugars that could sabotage her efforts. Over time, she had learned to read labels carefully, seeking pure, organic, and unprocessed grains. She ran her fingers over the packaging, inspecting ingredient lists and certifications. She found joy in selecting rice that was simple and wholesome, free from unnecessary chemicals. This act of choosing was deeply empowering, a way to bring intention to her meals before even stepping into the kitchen. Elysia understood that buying quality ingredients was the foundation of nourishing cooking. At home, she took care to store her rice properly. She learned that keeping rice in airtight containers, away from heat and moisture, preserved its freshness and nutritional value. This prevented spoilage and infestation by pests, common problems in her humid climate. She lined her pantry with glass jars and labeled each container, transforming storage into a clean, organized space that reflected her new way of living. Elysia found that proper storage not only maintained the rice's flavor and texture, but also helped protect the delicate nutrients, especially antioxidants and resistant starches. She realized that these small steps could make a big difference in how her body received and processed the food. The care she put into storing rice was a reflection of the care she was giving to herself. Sometimes she bought rice in bulk to save money and reduce packaging waste, but she always made sure to store it in cool, dark places and use it within a reasonable time frame. This thoughtful approach reduced stress and ensured she always had nourishing grains ready to support her meals. Elysia also explored local sources, seeking out farmers and vendors who grew rice sustainably and without harmful chemicals. She appreciated the connection to the land and community that came with choosing local, responsibly produced food. This connection deepened her gratitude for the grains that sustained her and inspired her to continue learning. As she continued on this path, Elysia discovered that choosing and storing rice well was part of a larger mindset, one of respect and mindfulness toward all aspects of food. She became more attuned to where her food came from, how it was grown, and how best to honor it. This awareness extended to other ingredients in her kitchen, creating a holistic approach to nourishment. Elysia shared these insights with Lynn and her friends, encouraging them to think beyond just cooking and eating. She explained that the way food was sourced and stored could influence its impact on health, flavor, and longevity. Many were surprised at how much thought went into what seemed like simple staples, and they appreciated her guidance. One afternoon, as Elysia prepared a large batch of black rice for the week ahead, she reflected on how much her relationship with food had changed. What once was routine and automatic had become a deliberate and loving practice. Each grain of rice, carefully chosen and stored, was a testament to her journey, a symbol of resilience, hope, and care. Her story, shared with neighbors and community groups, inspired others to approach food with curiosity and respect. Elysia became a quiet ambassador for mindful eating, reminding people that the choices we make, from the grocery store to the pantry, shape our health and well-being in profound ways. Through this final chapter, Elysia felt a deep sense of peace. She had transformed fear into knowledge, confusion into clarity, and habits into rituals of healing. The grains that nourished her body also nourished her spirit, connecting her to traditions, family, and the earth. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over her kitchen, Elysia smiled. The journey was ongoing, but she was ready, armed with wisdom, compassion, and the simple power of a well-chosen grain. Each meal was a celebration, a gift, and a promise to herself. And with that, Elysia knew she was not just managing diabetes. She was embracing life with grace, strength, and a heart full of hope. Elysia's journey has shown us the quiet power of mindful choices. From the moment she faced the shock of her diabetes diagnosis to the gentle discovery of healing grains like wild rice, black rice, and brown basmati, she transformed uncertainty into strength. Along the way, she learned not only which types of rice could support her health, but also how the simple acts of cooking, portion control, and mindful eating could steady her blood sugar and renew her energy. She embraced the challenges of letting go of familiar foods like white and sticky rice, replacing them with nourishing alternatives that honored her body and her spirit. Elysia's story reminds us that change is possible even when it feels daunting, and that small, consistent steps can lead to lasting transformation. To every senior watching, remember, your health is your most precious gift. The journey may begin with a single grain, a simple meal, or a small shift in habit, but these choices ripple outward, strengthening your body, brightening your days, and enriching your life. You have the power to take control, to nourish yourself with intention, and to write your own story of resilience and hope. Start today and embrace the gentle journey toward a healthier, happier you.